So I'd like to just welcome John and Shireen, who'll just say a few words.
Hi, good evening. Thank you to Sonali, Dave Renai, thank you, Close Up, thank you, Oliver. I really wanted to share this moment with Shireen and Aki here because we were talking about films, lost films, other people have seen. In a way, this is a special film that you're going to see because this is the one film in my filmography that my father hasn't seen. And it's a deeply personal project that when I was making, I thought I was going to be confronted with the fact that I would have the courage, would I have the courage to show this film to my father. But so far, 10 years after, he hasn't seen this. I was confronted with the fact that there are generations, there are things that are passed on generation by generation, and I was kind of scared with some of the things that I was thinking about, and that's maybe the hesitation that I have, maybe up to now that my father hasn't seen this. My family has heard about this film, and I guess my other uncles, brothers, sisters of my mother have seen the film in some other form. But my father still hasn't seen this, and I just wanted to thank you again for being here and for watching this film with us. So there's a Q&A after. I'll be glad to answer some questions if I can. Thank you.
I'll just start by asking you a question that sprang to my mind. I mean, you said that it's a very deeply personal film, and it's also, I guess, quite contemplative. It's a bit of a meditation, and it's also quite complex. Perhaps you could just start by talking to us a little bit about the approach that you took in kind of creating this sort of collage of fragments that are underpinned by the story around your father.
So at this time I was already traveling with my first film, and I was still thinking about the fact that things were being discovered about my father and my father's other family, and I had been wanting to meet the other children, but unfortunately that wasn't the time because that wasn't the right time. We were really thinking about my mother and to take our time as a family to be more at peace with everything. But so as I was traveling, I would still document, have the camera ready to meet other faces, and I would see that there was a pattern that I was really talking to people who were outside many circles in other ways. So I really wanted to. That was also the time when I thought that I would make attempts to to tell a story, and so it was really a discovery process for myself early on that I wasn't really so much good at telling straight narratives because I really wanted to maybe prove to my father that I was really indeed making films, because at home they would see my earlier work and they would say they're not real films. They didn't have the actors that they wanted to see, no real story, and it was just really borrowed stuff, borrowed cameras, So those were really attempts at trying to make stories that I could pursue, but of course they all failed, and I just really wanted to think about those attempts and why I did those, and also as a child I really wanted to juxtapose everything with my father's body as I wanted to journey outside, to be as far away from him. I also was very much treading on his body. You know, even as a child, I would literally walk on his back to soothe my father, who was always not really moving about, because he was a writer, and so I didn't really know why I should do the walking on the body to soothe his muscles, to soothe his back, but it felt like things were going under, and beneath the skin. I just wanted to have this juxtaposition, you know, of exploration of all things away from my father, and also having focus on different parts of the body.
And one element that struck me about the film, and also about, or in other films of yours and Shireen's, in fact, is the use of sound, and the sound design, and the way that the sound sort of it reflects the tone, and how that sort of resonates. I mean, you're a musician yourself as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wondered if you could maybe just talk a little bit about how you approach the sound design, and how that sort of married with the key theme.
I think at this point, when I was making the film, I was more at home with rhythm more than the melody of things, which I would go on to explore in my next film. But at this time, it was more rhythm. I wanted to hear words to be said, even contrasting or conflicting words, just for things to feel like they're moving forward and I'm moving forward. So I was really more conscious about the beats, and so I hope I got an impression of an experience through the beats, through the rhythm in this piece. I don't know. Felt like the words don't really carry as much weight now. Knowing that my father would be the one to first teach us about words, you know, he would ask us to model, serve as models for his self-published books, you know, English for Beginners, ABC and Numbers, you know, How to Tell the Time. And at that point, you know, I was really very self-conscious about my own body, and those were books that we would see still as we moved from this big house into this cramped place, you know, as reminders of, you know, of the time when he made a living for everyone, and you know, put us up in good schools, and really afforded us a good childhood, for this to come crashing down again. So all those words that we learned. Interestingly, at home we never got to really read about stories, you know, no fiction books, no. Most of those were really self-help, even hypnosis videos, you know, even adult stuff like I mentioned in Berwick, how to know if people are interested through body language, you know, how to win friends and influence people, you know, practical stuff, you know, how we could grow taller when as I, you know, and clearly everything failed. So I don't know if it's really a distrust or of things that were written, no? But I guess I carried them all in my attitude towards written things as stories. I never really could remember memorable films in terms of plot. And for a time I was really embarrassed about that.
maybe we'll open it up to the audience. Would anybody like to ask John a question about the film? Hot to see you right there. Yeah.
It's a very beautiful, moving film, and obviously very personal, as Lali says. I'm very interested to know, within the film there are certain characters who are moving from one place to another, or acknowledging their mistakes, or kind of saying that they need to perhaps learn something to move on in their life. I wondered if you felt differently about yourself, your family relationships with your father as a result of making the film.
Yeah, I think yes. I just needed to feel that things were moving, as you said, even in terms of rhythm. No? So it was something that, because when I wasn't moving, I was just really thinking and just being haunted by sound. And those things I don't really hear audibly, and so I really wanted for things to move, to maybe drown out some things, or even just imagine these things being heard as something that is ongoing and it hasn't ended. So just to get the feeling of overall a process that this is not yet done. So that I think was very important.
Any other questions?
I mean, it was really my experience, looking at details, even just things that I imagine, just dust particles, just things stuck in between, upholstery of bus seats, things just on the way, impending things.
And having seen Shireen's film earlier in the week, this thing about voice tapes is obviously an element that's very present in her film, and we see a bit of that comes through towards the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about that sort of element? It's quite interesting to see that sort of parallel between a film that you made 10 years ago and Shireen's new film.
Yes, so the voice tapes thing actually is a very direct experience of relatives, family members who would try to be present at home. So we would really have this direct experience of having all these ghosts being played, through the stereo, through the boombox, and not only that, it was both ways. We would also send our own voice tapes, have a program for us to fill the dead air, and we were really glad to do it. We would sing, we would wait for the loved ones, the partners, to send along their messages. So it was also at a time when voices were really alive. During my childhood, we would always burn the phone lines, have phone pals, and cross lines. We would overhear people saying maybe intimate things to each other when we pick up the phone. Party line, it's called party line in the Philippines, no? I would be really so embarrassed to just wait and then hear some things and just do it very, very quietly. It's called party line. It's really very nice transactions in relation to neighbors. Actually, especially if you knew who the party line is, it's just across the road. It's so so it's nice time. As I was also having all these digesting everything that or ingesting everything that my father has, published, for us to self-help, to be raised as brighter children. And I really believed for a while, because we kind of really got the good grades, and and other classmates in school would refer to my father as the one who also helped them, to memorize all the multiplication tables, that we would sing along the answer for them.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was wondering about, there's like the scene where the sound kind of disintegrates from the dance into the scene of the home with the drills. I was wondering how that kind of came about. It's like a really interesting kind of parallel.
Yeah. I haven't seen the film again, but I remember the day when I was able to revisit our old house, being torn down. I don't know. I just wanted to mark the rooms, the chambers, the memories as construction or as they were being torn down. So, I don't know. The sound was again something that it was important in the remembering of this experience as I edited actually the scenes. I really still remember in the bedroom, I forced open the door, and here was before me was my father, who was kneeled down in front of my mother, who already had the pistol in her hand, and it was the same sound, that when she pulled the trigger, I really couldn't believe it. that she pulled the trigger, and it was nothing happened. And they were before very big mirrors, no.
Any final questions? Yeah.
Yesterday you talked about it's about the construction. Really, I'm interested in. On there, you had some collaborators with you said screenplay or people you were working with. So yesterday when you talked about Vietnam Rose, that you had to color code all the film to make it in its process. Can you just talk about how you constructed parts of this? If you had collaborators and it was all in your head, but how did you work with them to kind of construct it?
Okay, so I made this 10 years ago. I can admit most of it is a lie, actually, in terms of collaboration. I was really doing it on my own. But because I secured funding from other people, I really had to, present a fake script, fake team, even. So those are all initial plans for so the script. I don't even know where they are, but I submitted one to get the funding.
Yeah.
And I don't know if of course they know now that this is how I work. I have a plan, but everything's up for revision or. So I really worked on this alone. I just collected all the travels, the footage that I had. It was something that I really had to confront on my own. Knowing and saying that, friends have influenced me. I may have consulted a lot of them about this very personal nature of doing work and completing such. I just don't remember now how they really contributed.
Is it the same with the poetry? Did you also write the poetry?
Okay. So yes. No. Those are friends of ours. So yes, they're collaborations, they're contributions from friend poets. Very young and still writing. Even with my first feature, I made use of a lot of the poetry, and they were very important for me to construct everything or have a semblance that we're going somewhere with it. It really also made me confident, because as much as I can admit that I don't know if I really understood in totality what the poetry, the lines were saying, you know, this is also similar to that. And maybe I will get the chance to actually watch it again on my own. even present this to my father. I don't know if that would serve as a good end to all of this.
Do you think it's something you'll do at some point?
I don't know. Maybe I'll let you know. I'll email close up and for help. You know, it's pretty weird because for in a span of a year, I'd like to announce that, you know, all these screenings, you know, but I just really was too shy and you know, embarrassed that maybe my father would discover all these things. You know? Sorry, because last night, the past few days, we've been talking about lost films and films that were not finished, you know, about done by my cinematic heroes, and here I am speaking, and it was really actually Close Up who handpicked this film, and I'm really glad that I get to talk about this again. Thank you again, Sonara.
Well, I think it's a perfect note to end on. I'd like to thank John and Shireen for being able to spend a lot of time with you over this week. Again, I'd like to thank Tate Modern and Berwick Film and Media Arts Festival for making this all possible and for allowing us to share in John's and Shireen's work. Just a note about Shireen's film Nervous Translation. If you didn't get a chance to see it this last week, either Tate Modern or Berwick, Day for Night will be releasing it in the UK on the 29th of March next year. It's actually going to a few more festivals before then, which is why we're hanging on until the spring to actually release it. And thank you all for joining in over this last week. I know there's a lot of familiar faces in the audience. We've seen you at different places, at different ends of the country, and it's been a great experience over this week. So thank you, and thank you, John.
Thank you.